best in radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. It's Kerry Lutz, and it's time for another Triple Lutz report. This is episode 361. The date is August 26th, 2014. Well, what's going on? First of all, support the show. We'll be sending you lots of stuff if you do, I promise you. The newsletter back up and running. I promised you that by the end of August it would be. Recap went out yesterday, but if you want to subscribe, go ahead. Report on how to buy an almost new car, save thousands, even tens of thousands. It's what I've been doing for years. Unless there's a new car out there that you absolutely have to have, don't do it. The other exception is if there's a new car out there that they just can't give away or that they have to give away, then buy it. But otherwise, go for an almost new car. Almost new car definition, a car that's 2 to 3 years old with very low mileage. And where do you find these gems? Well, you can find them on cars.com, autotrader.com, but the secrets are in my report. I'm putting the finishing touches on it now. So go over to financialsurvivalnetwork.com, sign up for the newsletter. Also, got my report. No one's ever done one like it on precious metal storage, free options that are out there that are available to you. I've found them. No one else has done it, and I've got them. So go out there, subscribe, go to the site. And if you haven't been to the site lately, go there. Stefan the Human Aggregator. He's aggregating hundreds of articles that you need to read or at least know are there from all of the important sites on the web. I mean, I'm just going over to the site now. I can't even believe what he does. And I don't even pay him to do it. It's kind of a joint venture, but articles from Dollar Collapse, articles from King World News, from just amazing places. Jess's Cafe American, SHTF Plan, our good friend Max Salvo. Yeah, he's got one there. Jaw-dropping revelation. Justice Department confirms that lost IRS emails are stored on backup drives. Here's one. Learn liberty. Cops can search your cell phone, ? They can, but they can't. Our good friend Dennis Miller has written an article from Miller's Money. 65,000 Marines hold up a mirror to the economy. We've got David Kotok. Have to get him back on. Deflationary fears are spreading globally. Usually what the largest number of people believe is the opposite of what's really happening. So something we've been talking about for years, they're just starting to figure out that China is turning into a desert. So the logical place where the Chinese are going to go is to Russia, to Siberia, which means that the long-term interests of Russia are certainly adverse to China. And yet, politics makes for strange bedfellows. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Therefore, of course, they have an alliance against the United States that will only last so long. Eventually, China will colonize Siberia. Nobody's in Siberia anyway. Chinese don't care about cold weather, evidently. Weather in China is really awful in the winter, too. So they'll be there. You will see it. And the news just keeps getting better and better. We got a video from Reason TV on PJ O'Rourke's on millennials and baby boomers. And hey, in case you haven't seen it, Argentina is going to go bankrupt again. And good story there by Ellen Brown, also a frequent guest of the show. So the point is, basically everything that you need to read, that you need to be aware of, it's on financialsurvivalnetwork.com, which is why tens of thousands of you every month go to the site and hope you keep going. Interesting thing I read recently, our good friend Jeff Berwick got himself into a mess with Gulch Chili. Evidently, he was promoting it. He didn't know it, but it turned out to be a fraud. He got in with the wrong people. And, I trust Jeff. I know that he did not have any idea what he was getting himself into, but Gulch is going to remain a dream. It's going to remain a mythical place in the Ayn Rand novels. So, hey, if you want to support the show, clubfsn.com. Go there. We'll be sending you books, emails, restricted audio content that's not going to be out there for the general public, guests that we don't have out on the show, a lot of proprietary information that you won't find elsewhere. If you're concerned about the economy, if you're concerned about where the financial system is heading, nobody can give you exact information, exact prognosis. But what we can give you that others can't is a wide variety of opinions of knowledgeable people, myself included. I'd like to put myself into that group to help you decide. Nobody can make the decision for you, but we can provide you with the information and help you get to where you need to go. That's all we can do. Got something here from Greg Gunther at the Daily Reckoning, a secret buy signal in U.S. housing. I'm not quite buying it, but I think that if you can swing it, one of the places I love to look for houses is homepath.com. Fannie and Freddie put their REO, that's real estate owned, up there. And you can get property there for 5% down. That's cheaper than anything else. Look, it's like buying that almost new car. You can buy it way, way cheaper than the new car. And it's just a great place to start looking for a house. And the good thing is when Fannie and Freddie put houses up there, every month that house goes unsold, they cut it. They cut the price. And I've seen them doing it here in Florida, and something to really think about. 5% down. In addition, they will give you a home improvement mortgage for up to $35,000, put it onto the mortgage. And, it's just a really good deal if you can find the right house. And if you're an investor, they're not going to exclude you from it. They might make you keep it a little while longer. There's a whole list of conditions for those mortgages. There's a bunch of banks out there that are making these home path mortgages. I think it's a good place to take a look at it. I still think that with rates as low as they are in many, many places in the country, you can be buying a home cheaper than you can rent it, especially when you throw in the potential tax benefits, that the deductibility of interest, deductibility of taxes, and if it's income producing, additional advantages that accrue to you as well. So, it's so interesting. Karl Denninger, he's no longer monetizing his site, but he's such a bright guy. And he's talking about what's going on in the colleges around the country, the way that tuition gouging for degrees that are useless in the real world and a failed business model have put U.S. colleges front and center as exacerbating income inequality. And, the thing is that colleges no longer have a lock on knowledge. You can get the knowledge that colleges are selling from so many other sources on the internet, and you can get it so much cheaper. And not only that, but the internet has allowed you to compare the cost of gaining that knowledge. So if you've got kids, tell so many people, go to the community college first. See if your kids' college material, you can send them to these colleges for so much less money. And then if the kid is college material, you get 2.5 years worth of college credit at an extremely low price, and then go examine the alternatives after that. And you've got the online alternatives as well. don't go into hock for this. And then you do cost benefit analysis on what that degree is actually going to get you. So options, all these things, Karl Denninger at market-ticker.org. I mean, one of the best guys out there. And there evidently is a college watchdog out there called the American Council of Trustees and Alumni. And they say it's a tragedy that our colleges and universities are increasingly characterized by their high costs, not their high standards, adding, it's time to demand improvement. And, it's just that why, as he's saying here, does student loan debt have a special status, non-dischargeable, and why is there all these preferences built into the system for college debt? And that's what I'd like to know. Why do you get to write some off? There's a lot of things here that are wrong about the way that college is financed, things that you got to take a look at before you go leaping into it, regardless what junior wants. So much that you need to be aware of there, and so much that we really need to keep finding out about. And we're going to be having a new sponsor coming up, New Precious Metals. Next week, they're going to be doing a special deal for you, so stay tuned for that. In case you're just tuning in, it's a Triple Lutz Report 361. We're talking about various trends going on. And, right now, gold is up today for the first time in weeks. It's up about $8 the ounce. Let's see if it breaks through 1,300 again. Even silver is up about 9 cents the ounce, if you can believe it. And it's interesting that they've been knocking it down, and they've only been able to get it down to 1278. I don't like to make predictions about prices of precious metals, mainly because I'm always wrong. Nobody can predict what's going to happen here. I just don't see a rush to liquidate. I still see the East gobbling up all that they can get. I mean, that's the fact of the matter. Don Harold, he's even a buyer at this number. We had a bet a while ago. I still think that probably silver's put in its low, but hey, then we get to the Daily Bell, and they're calling it the revolt of the Luddites. Berlin is moving against Uber and AirBNB. I mean, it's just amazing how technology can stir up the elites and the protected industries. Uber taxi was banned in Berlin on safety grounds, and in Hamburg, with a vote to ban the taxi app firm, saying it does not protect passengers from unlicensed drivers. That they're so concerned about drivers that how many times have you gotten into New York or big city and you get in a taxi cab licensed by the Department of whatever taxi regulation in that city? In New York, it's called the TLC, Taxi and Limousine Commission. And these drivers are psychos. I mean, I remember a radio host in New York City used to say, Bob Graney used to say, they don't drive their taxis, they aim them. And, the fact is, they could care less about your safety. They're just revenue raising entities for the city. And they've been around for 100 years already, and their only purpose is simply to protect that industry and to just look out for the city and the industry who owns that regulatory commission. That's really what it comes down to. They could care less about the safety of the passengers. And the proof is, like in New York, and we've seen this over and over again. New York, what they do is they incorporate the 2 or 3 taxis into one corporation, and then they take out huge loans on the medallions, which they're going for hundreds of thousands of dollars now. So, and then the minimum insurance they take out is like $150,000. Okay. So what happens next? There's an accident and you're severely injured in this taxi. And you say, oh, I'm going to sue the driver, blah, blah. The driver is Abdul, who's probably, judgment proof. You can get the $150,000 insurance policy. You're not going to reach the medallion because that's held by a corporation that is judgment proof because they've got the thing leaned up to the hilts. There's no equity in that medallion. So that's gone. And you have no means of collecting unless Donald Trump ran into your taxi and he was negligent. So you're screwed. And then they try to say that they're protecting you, that that's their goal. It's just ridiculous. Come on, let's face it. It's a fraud. All they care about is they pay millions of dollars in fees per year to New York City and all these big cities. And that's all they care about. They don't care about the drivers. So, in the Daily Bell, which is a site that I love, put up by Andrew Weil, my other friends used to be involved in it too. This is what it's about. So they're calling it new kinds of commerce are dangerous. Free market analysis. Berlin is leading the way for Neo-Luddites. Luddites were people in, I guess it was England, who were fighting the new technology of looms and stuff in the 18th century. They were destroying looms because they said that the new technology was going to put people out of business. And they're confronting both internet-based taxi service and lodging facilities. AirBNB, in New York, the Attorney General is trying to get the records out of them because New Yorkers are only allowed to use Airbnb to rent out rooms in their homes, New York City, if they're present in the apartment. They're not present in the apartment. They cannot rent out their apartment. And, this is the People's Republic of New York. And listen to this, Uber is already banned in Hamburg, also failed to provide adequate insurance for its drivers or their passengers in accidents. And the Berlin ruling states Uber is from now on no longer allowed to use a smartphone app or similar application or offer services via this app, which are in breach of the Public Transport Act. And they're going to appeal the ban, saying the Senate's decision is anything but progressive, and it was seeking to limit consumer choice for all the wrong reasons. Uber claims that it does not operate a taxi service, but merely offers a platform that mediates between drivers and customers, and they could be fined up to 25,000 euros if it ignores the ban. I mean, this is what we're up against here. This is not to protect you. It's not to protect society. It's to protect a favored class of franchise holders, mainly the people that buy licenses for taxis, innkeepers, and drivers, and all them. And, there needs to be a debate about this. This is authoritarianism. This is taking care of favored classes, no different than taking care of the banksters. Who are the innkeepers? I mean, it's huge multinational corporations, your Starwoods, your Marriotts, and, all the big innkeepers of Europe, Softel, and, you can go down the list, Holiday Inn. And, now there's like a bunch of different companies that dominate the space. But more and more of this is coming up, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. The internet is the great disruptor, and more apps will come up. The apps will come up so fast that there won't be any stopping them. Uber is just a target, but there's also Lyft, Lyft. My friends use it. They love it. In Texas, you have to use a black car service to pick you up at the airport. But when you're going to the airport to get dropped off, you don't have to. So it's like $70 to get picked up at the airport, but it's $20 to get dropped off. Real interesting service. I haven't used it yet, but at some point, no doubt I will. And this is a creative destruction, capitalism at work. And hey, our friend Charles Hugh Smith, it's not just politics that's broken. The status quo model of how the world works is broken. And I see a book coming out of this shortly from Charles. Once the book is out, we will have him in and we'll follow up on this. And yeah, there's just so much stuff going on. Hey, interesting story in Zero Hedge that I wanted to share with you. One that you really need to think about because it just proves that the stock market's got nothing to do with earnings. If you happen to think that it did, check this article out in Zero Hedge. Came up on the 25th of August. Behold the magic of accounting and first half earnings. So if we go by GAAP, which is generally accepted accounting principles, which kind of have been outlawed. In quarter one, the GAAP earnings were actually down 1.4%, but reported earnings of S&P 500 stocks were up 4.6%. And then quarter two, GAAP earnings were up 1.8%, but reported earnings, non-GAAP earnings, 8.4%. Isn't that interesting? So we look at the first half, GAAP earnings up 0.2%, non-GAAP 6.5%. But nobody cares about that anyway, because according to Martin Armstrong, it's all about the flow of funds that are taking place across the world, right? Who cares about real earnings, GAAP earnings? And even GAAP earnings can really be manipulated, but it's harder to manipulate GAAP earnings. And, story of the day is Burger King flips Obama the bird. You know that Burger King is trying to acquire this restaurant chain from Tim Hortons. It's a popular bakery and coffee chain, and it's actually pretty good. I've been there when I was in Vancouver. And it'll be one of these inversions where Burger King basically gives up their headquarters in the U.S., becomes a Canadian company, and will realize a lower tax rate. So the logical thing is you're married and your spouse leaves you for somebody else, and you kind of say, well, what did I do wrong? Or what is the other guy doing right? Well, the U.S. says, why are they going to Canada or Ireland or elsewhere? What is so much better about them? It's like, they don't say that. They say, what is wrong with this company that they would want to leave the blessed United States for a better place? They don't say why they would want to, what's wrong with the U.S. No, it's what's wrong with the company. Why are they so delusional that they would actually want to leave the United States? And that's exactly the wrong question. How are the U.S. tax rates so screwed up that companies, 51 or 2 of them over the past several years, would actually merge with foreign companies to get the hell out of the U.S. and be subjected to lower tax rates? Instead, they're looking at punishing companies for even thinking about it. And it's the same thing like when the golfer, I think it was Greg Norman, talked about leaving California for Florida where they had no state income tax. And this is wrong. It should be, what's wrong with the U.S. that's making all these companies want to leave the U.S. for greener pastures? Why are record numbers of people becoming expats of the U.S. like they used to do from England, from the U.K.? That's what they need to be thinking of, but they're not doing that. And Warren Buffett, who's always saying that he doesn't pay enough taxes, is going to finance this deal. So Warren, the hypocrite Buffett, is behind making this a reality. And, John F. Kerry, our Secretary of State, an incompetent idiot, is called these guys Benedict Arnolds at one time. And, let's go take a look at the tax code. Let's toss it out the door. Let's destroy it. And let's come up with a simplified tax code that cuts taxes for everyone, gets rid of all these loopholes, and means full unemployment for tax lawyers and partial employment for accountants. Okay, that would do more to jumpstart the U.S. economy than anything else. And if it means eliminating the corporate income tax altogether, then so be it. I mean, this thing is ridiculous. It's hurting the country's competitiveness. The Canadian corporate tax rate right now is typically 26.5% compared to 40% in the U.S., not including the state corporate tax rates that go on top of it in all the states that have state income taxes. And this is what's killing the country. But nobody wants to look at that. And, the country deserves it for not facing these facts. And, we have politicians that don't understand the law of economics. I was at a conference about internet broadcasting last week, and one of the speakers up there said that, the book that helped me the most in business was Freakonomics. Now, being into economics and understanding these things long before I ever read Freakonomics, I just viewed Freakonomics as a very interesting book, entertaining book. But if you're not into economics, I could understand why Freakonomics would be more than entertaining if you got the lessons from it, which is that every policy, every law, every intervention by the government, there are incentives and there are penalties. And look, just like the states, if in one state they have a 10% income tax, and in the other state, they have no income tax. And opportunities are pretty much equal between the two states. And I'm not in an industry or have a business that is location-centric and requires me to be in that state that charges the 10% income tax. Do you think I'm going to stay in that state for very long? Just look at the relative populations between Florida and New York. Perfect example. Right now, they're approximately equal, although I think Florida's population is past New York's. Approximately 20 million people in each state. I remember looking at the population maps of New York and Florida roughly in the late 60s. Okay. And at the time, New York's population was approximately 16 million. Florida's about 5 million. Here we are 46 years later. Florida has 20 million. New York has 20 million. So Florida's population has roughly quadrupled. New York's has gone up about, 16 million? New York's has gone up 25% in 47 years. Florida has gone up 4 times. All right. Incentives. And it's not just the wonderful winter weather. There are crazy people out there that say, I love the 4 seasons. I used to be one of them, and I'm not here just for the taxes. Okay. It's also libertarianism, the right to defend yourself, and so many other things, less government. But Florida's got more than its share of problems. It's got way more government than it ever needed. But look, the fact is incentives. There's more incentives for people to live in Florida than there are for them to live in New York. I won't go into them, but all I can do is look at the numbers. The numbers don't lie. And so from that standpoint, if you don't know anything about economics whatsoever, then perhaps Freakonomics is the best book that you could ever hope to purchase, because it really explains to you the whole nature of economics, incentives, and penalties. It does it in areas that I don't necessarily agree with everything they have to say. But look, just look at the populations and look at the population of Texas. People make fun of Texas. They make fun of Rick Perry, and God knows there's enough to make fun of there. But the fact is, Texas is now the number 2 most populous state. Why is that? Low taxes and better opportunities there. And the more you get to keep of your income, the better your standard of living is going to be. The more incentives there will be for you, the better your opportunities. It's just the way it is. And, you don't have to be a genius to figure this one out, I assure you. So take a look at Mish's site, globaleconomicanalysis.blogspot.com. If anyone knows Mish, tell him to get a better website for sure. And, hats off to Burger King. Richard Russell of the Dow Theory newsletter got a good thing about gold and the current financial system to tear itself apart. We all know it's going to happen. We don't know when. I'm not going to get into Ferguson. I've done enough on it. Don't forget, go over to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Check out these articles. Sign up for the newsletter if you haven't done it already. We'll have that auto report. We're working on it now. it's going to be helpful. I promise you. Like I said, the only time to buy a new car is if there's some model that you love that you can't live without because you're just not going to be able to buy it used and it just came out. And the other thing is when they've got a model that they can't sell when they've got a model that they can't give away, literally, and they have to give it away, then it will pay to buy it new, either through their financing, through different means that they will promote that vehicle. I got one car I got wasn't new, but it had never been sold. It was a demo, and this car was a 2012. Got it last year and had just under 9,000 miles on it. I saved, I think, 40% off the sticker price, all because it had a V8 engine. It's absurd. Nobody wants V8s anymore. So I took it, and I got 1% or 2% financing on it too. They just could not do enough for me on it. And they certified it. That's another thing. If you can get your car certified used, the additional warranty protection is worth the extra $1,000 often. If you can get it certified for $1,000 or less, sometimes they'll certify it for $500. Sometimes they'll just throw it in to get you to take the car because they want it off the lot. Hey, another trick, you're buying cars, especially luxury cars. If you can buy a Mercedes off of Lexus's lot or a Lexus off of BMW's lot, they hate keeping each other's used cars on their lot. And generally, people don't like to buy each other's cars, different brands off of different dealers' lots. That can be a good one too. So we got lots of tips from actually 39 years of buying cars and things about Carfax, other tips that you're just not going to find elsewhere. Just don't buy too much car. Don't go into too much debt. Cost-benefit analysis, always essential. But I guess that's it for about now. It's been another Triple Lutz report. Kerry Lutz signing off.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.